Howdy folks, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of this Make Italy Great Again grand campaign. So originally I was planning to split this video into two because the first video was just 40 minutes long while the second one was actually 1 hour roughly long. But for, let's say, to give you some kind of continuity between these two episodes, I just decided to merge them together. So, let's say, similarly to what happened in real life, in April 1941, I decided to launch the, let's say, liberation of Greece from the filthy democratic government. And the good thing about waiting to declare war against Greece was that Bulgaria was already in the Axis, and the big advantage of having Bulgaria in the Axis was that it forced the Greek AI to redeploy and actually dilute all of its troops along the entire front line. And you know, when you mass 24 infantry divisions in Albania and they just face 4 enemy divisions, well, the outcome of the battle is pretty much already decided. And indeed, while the Bulgarians took control of Thrace and of the, let's say, northern coastline facing the Aegean Sea, my troops just swam into the enemy territory, reaching Athens, kicking out whatever divisions was standing there, and finishing the Greek campaign within a matter of 2 months. In Africa, things, I would say in Africa, not anymore in North Africa, but by this time, things did not proceed as well as I expected, because the plan was, and if you play as Italy, the plan should always be to encircle and destroy as many enemy divisions as possible. And this, let's say, failed 3 times until I managed to encircle 2 British divisions along the Red Sea coast. And as you can see, I again tricked the Allied AI, the British AI, by not calling to arms my Italian East African colony or puppet or whatever, because by not calling it to arms into this war, I basically forced the British AI to deploy again. I think that there were in total 20 divisions along the border of the Italian East Africa, divisions that could have been sent against me, of course. But no worries, because a nasty surprise arrived around this moment, because at the beginning of, I think, of this episode, or even at the end of the previous one, I got the notification that Iraq declared war against the British, and in turn Iraq became part of the Axis. And I quickly had a look at Iraq, and I was like, yeah, sure, Iraq has 4 infantry divisions. Maybe they were complete crap, I don't know. And the British only had 1 division in Kuwait. So I was like, yeah, I mean, for sure, the Iraqi forces can handle this. And when I received the news that Iraq has capitulated, I panicked, because I had no troops defending the Middle East, and thanks to whoever told me the Sinai Peninsula. So I was like, if those Brits reach the Suez Canal, I am basically F-upped. Yeah, you know what I mean. So I detached to the north the whole army of General Piroli, and despite suffering some attrition, both in Iraq as well as in Africa, yet once again my troops emerged victorious. And that was kind of expected, let's say. And in Africa, because of the critical supply situation, I think critical for both me and the allies, I had to manually take control of the situation to again try to encircle 4 enemy divisions. In Iraq, there was a kind of a stalemate at some point. along the famous rivers that now I don't know the name in English. Sorry for that. And yeah, thanks to the prompt intervention of the Italian Air Force, the situation, let's say, became mobile once again. And in Africa, I succeeded with the objective of encircling again 4 enemy divisions, which were promptly wiped out. In again on the, let's say, Middle Eastern front, something else happened. Iran became the target of a, let's say, joint war between the Soviet Union and the Allies. So while I was fighting now Iraq against the British, Iran was now part of the Axis and fighting both the Soviets and the Allies. It was really a horrible situation, and that's also why I decided to stop the old episode around 40 minutes, because I really got lost and I had to take a break to think at what to do next. And to make things even worse, of course, for obvious reasons, Iran did not have enough troops to handle both the Soviet invasion and the invasion coming from the British Raj. And for whatever reason, even though Iran was in the Axis, I did not have military access to it. So I said, okay, let's just pull back all of our divisions to make a, let's say, fallback line to avoid any, let's say, clash with the Soviets or with the Allies, and let's see what happens. Because I thought, okay, maybe both the Soviets and the Allies will just maybe annex Iran, and maybe I could launch an invasion of India. This was actually, yeah, this was really my plan. What I failed to realize, however, is that I think because of a scripted event, Iran was then puppeted. Iran, I think, either became a democratic nation or a communist. I think it became democratic, actually. And yeah, this caught me completely again by surprise. But let's not spoil it too much. So I said, okay, let's wait along this front line. And then I realized, okay, since the invasion of Greece, say, was pretty much successful, I decided to move the army group of General Graziani along the Iraqi, Iranian, Turkish, Soviet border, let's say. And the plan was to put the infantry and the mountaineers there and to bring again the motorized divisions down on the African front. Also, here you can see a big flaw of the AI. So when I assigned the field marshal order to the new front line, the AI automatically redeployed its troops in a completely chaotic way. And okay, I just stop here for a second to tell you what happened here. I finally decided to declare war against the Soviets, and this allowed me now to redeploy my 3 armies within Iran, let's say, 2 armies directed against the Soviet Union and 1 army directed against the British Raj. And it was a risky situation because, as you can see, part of my divisions got cut off. And I mean, luckily, my response was very swift. And yeah, so I also opened the hostilities against the Soviets, and the goal of this offensive in Iran was to at least cut off the front line into two. On one hand, hold the Allied forces coming from the east and push in the Caucasus from the south. About Africa, I was telling that when I assigned the field marshal order to move all of the divisions along the new front line, the AI just reshuffled everything and left an enormous gap between, let's say, the far right flank and the left flank. And I feared again for the worst, but Apparently, the strategic redeployment of my troops was much faster than the simple advance of the Allies divisions into the potential salient that could have been created in that place. And with the situation in the Caucasus, let's say now literally on fire, I decided to, let's say, give more attention now to this front and just set the African front on a brief pause, let's say. Again, in the Caucasus, when fighting the Soviet Union, the same is true. I mean, it's the same strategy that you have to use when you fight China. The Soviets will have 1 billion of troops, and every small encirclement at the end counts. Um, Again, let's say another flaw of the AI that I notice is that whenever you make an encirclement, maybe for whatever reason the AI will just assign maybe 10, 12, 15 divisions around that pocket and will leave almost nothing on the main front line. And I'm saying this because I had to pay the the price in this sense, because I was trying to push against Tiflis, I think it's called, yeah, Tiflis, with just one division, when all of a sudden I think 3 Soviet divisions arrived in the city, and I mean, 1 versus 3, you just cannot win it, even if you have green air support. So I decided, okay, let's just wipe out this pocket. Let's bring all the divisions along the new front line. And again, once again, my AI just messed everything up, because General Soddu's army, not that he was very brilliant in real life, but I think even in game now, Soddu really sucks. Soddu's army was divided into two. Half half of the army, the let's call it the pink army. Half of its army was, let's say, on the holding the line against the Soviets and the Allies, while the remaining half was fighting the Soviets in the Caucasus. Okay, never divide your forces, so maybe I should have just joined, let's say, manually the two armies to have just one army on the eastern front against the Raj and 2 armies in the Caucasus. But still, now I have to praise the AI, because the German AI came into my help, at least at the beginning, because by pushing relentlessly against the Soviets, the Germans managed to capture Astrakhan and seal off the enemy divisions in the Caucasus. So I was like, okay, cool, now I can just push and wipe out this large pocket and then focus my attention on another front. And it was at that moment that I realized that the German AI then all of a sudden just pulled out most of its troops in the Astrakhan region for whatever reason that I could never understand. And of course, the Soviets then came in, they reopened the supply lines, and well, morale of the story, I had to order manually to my soldiers to just march along the coast of the Caspian Sea to try and seal off at least a bunch of enemy divisions still fighting in the Caucasus. And thanks to, let's say, to my intervention and to intervention of Saddu's army this time, yeah, I again managed to close the pocket of the Caucasus, and with that, the gigantic battle of annihilation began. I mean, there was nothing too much exciting to say, despite the modifiers of the terrain and the national pride. No, pride is in HOI4. I mean, some modifiers that the Soviets have when they fight the Axis. Still, if your troops are lacking supplies, they are cut off, and there is no way you can resupply them. Well, you can have all the modifiers of this world, but sooner or later, their organization will drop, and they're basically doomed. And the Soviets divisions in the Caucasus were actually doomed. And the good thing about that is that I calculated roughly, I manually estimated that I cut off and destroyed between 35 and 40 enemy divisions. Now, one thing is to destroy 3-4 divisions, another thing is to destroy 30 or 40. Because when I had a look at the, let's say, main front line, I realized, holy mother of God, the Soviets almost did not have any division. They ran out of troops. I think that was also because of my intervention in the Caucasus and of the intervention in Iran, which diverted, I think, more troops than expected from the main front line. And having solved, let's say, the Caucasian front, I moved all of my infantry on the Iranian, let's say, border front line, while I did my best to play around with the stalemate in Africa, and I pushed my troops into, I think it's West Africa, just to, let's say, seal off that flank and liberate all those divisions for the next and final push into Central and Southern Africa. Wow, that was, I think, a very long video. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. Yeah, so as always, take care, stay safe, and let me know in the comments below if you have any suggestion or ideas or criticism. As always, bye bye, and see you all in the next episode very, very soon.